Good morning, everybody. Quick update from our trip to the drag strip last weekend. It was an 8 mile track down near Fresno. My son went with me, so we do have some starting line footage, and I got a couple of draggy passes. It was very hot, almost 100 degrees out there, so my phone, which hooks up to the draggy, the phone was overheating in the car and shutting off. So I only got 2 passes. When we realized that the phone was overheating, we would make a pass, come back to the pits, put the phone in the cooler on an ice block to cool it down. But, if I had to sit in the staging lanes for more than 5 or 10 minutes, then, the phone would overheat inside the car. So I got two in-car footages for the draggy, and my son got starting line footage. So we got a total of 4 passes. 2 were good. The first pass, we started at 16 pounds in the back, and we had a 5,200 launch RPM set in the Pertronics box here, and had the tires up kind of high because this was the same track that we dead hooked on because there was so much prep down. It dead hooked and broke the spider gears in the back, so I wanted to start with a higher PSI in case the prep was the same. But this time there was a sign up there that said water burnout only. So I don't think the track was prepped the same as it was last time. Anyway, blew the tires off the line, immediately went up on the rev limiter and just ran through the pass. But, it was like a 750 or something terrible. And that was our struggle, was trying to get the car to hook up. We realized we had some incorrect shock settings in the front. We did look at some slow motion footage, and the rear was separating and pushing the tires down. So I think the rear suspension was set up okay, but the front was not coming up, and the car was kind of nosing over and then unloading the rear. So that was an issue we were working on. But second pass, we dropped down from 16 to 14 psi and lowered the launch RPM from 5,200 to 4,500. It still spun. But it did make a full pass. It was like a 720 at 101. And then third pass, we dropped down to 13 psi. We were basically coming down 1 psi and left the launch RPM alone. And then that was a 176 60 foot with a 715 at 101. So we were definitely a few tenths off of where this car normally has been 60 footing in the 1.5s. So that would have put us back in the 6s, where personal best on this car is a 686 so far. That was fuel injected, so this is really our first time out with the carburetor. Now I came home and revised the front shock settings, and we got the car to move a little bit more in the front, and I also raised the front end up 1 inch on the coilovers there. So I think we had the front end too low and was too hard to, get the front end to start coming up. So anyway, and I realized I had the coilovers were set incorrectly on the front. So they were like super tight and locked down. But anyway, so that was that. We did meet Erwin Kular out there. He's got the yellow, like a 66 or 67 Mustang Coupe. He's featured on Ben Alameda's channel, and Ben has built his engine. So we went over and introduced ourselves to him and talked to him in the pits, and he showed us, some of Ben's work on his car with raising the ports with the port plates, and put a valley tray in there and stuff. So he says that's worth a good amount of horsepower. But real nice guy. I think I've seen him out at Sacramento Raceway before, but this time he was down at Fresno, at Mendota. This was the track we were at, Mendota Raceway Park. A lot of nice people down there. So we'll look forward. Their next event to June 28th is a Saturday. It's a night race on a Saturday, so that'll be kind of fun. We might have to stay the night down there. I don't know. My son said he'll go with me again, so that was that. Update here is we got a package from Innovators West. This is a crank trigger. We're going to move to a crank trigger system. What I mentioned before in the last video was Setting timing on this, as I raise the RPM up, it's actually retarding even though this distributor is locked out. I've done some Google research on that issue, and other people have had it with MSD boxes and stuff. And I don't know what the exact reason is for it, but I'm not the only one. Some say that the cam moves a little bit. Some say it's part of the magnetic trigger that's in here. I'm not sure, but a crank trigger will resolve all of that. We'll take our timing right from the crank and not have to deal with, you know, the crank to the cam, the crank, the chain, the cam, and then up to the distributor is telling it when to time. We're just going to have the timing fire right off the crank. So I think that's probably a smart upgrade. And then I'm also considering a vacuum pump. So we'll see. I did see another guy up there with a Fox body that had a vacuum pump on it. He had a 363. Talked to him, but he said he's not sure if it helps or not because when he bought the car, it was already on there. But it looked like he had an aerospace pump or maybe a GZ or something like that. But it was mounted right here with the mandrel and the belt. So yeah, we would probably go right here with it if we get one. But now I see there's actually an electric one you can buy from Star Machine. They have an electric vacuum pump. So that's something to consider too, but it is a couple $100 more, and it runs off of Milwaukee, you know, like 20-volt batteries. So that's kind of cool if you're just going to use it for racing. Anyway, the only other upgrade I have done so far is I'd have mechanical. I installed a mechanical water temp and oil temp with a copper line, and because if you guys watched the last video, you'll know the reason we made only one pass the time before at the track was when the oil pressure was dropping at the top of the track, or at least I thought it was. It turned out to just be the gauge. So I came home and bought a little cheapy oil pressure gauge to get me by because we only had 1 week. So I mounted that up here for last weekend. And oil pressure was fine. We had no issues. It was just the gauge, the in-dash gauge. So switched to a mechanical and no issues. I went and bought a Bosch triple gauge set. So what we did was previously my air fuel gauge was down here next to this is my line lock. And then when I had the nitrous kit, this was my arm and purge. So if we ever put nitrous back on, that much is all set. But anyway, got a triple gauge pod, cheapy thing off Amazon. I just screwed it down to the dash because this dash is already cracked. So, I mean, I can't save it. But, so we have our oil pressure, move the air fuel gauge up here, and our mechanical water temp. And then we have our voltage gauge down here now where the air fuel used to be. And this is where we'll have our camera mount off the rearview mirror. So I'll be recording everything from the draggy right here. You can still see the engine vacuum. So the only thing we won't be getting is RPM and, you know, mile per hour. But that should help us some with tuning in the future. And I am planning to get the car to the dyno. I found somebody local that has a dyno jet, a chassis dyno. And we can work on tuning the carb and finding timing, finding max horsepower with this thing. So that'll be coming up in a few weeks. Hopefully we can get that done before June 28th, the next race. And then I'm going to input some footage in here from the starting line. And I got starting line draggy, and we saw Erwin Kular make one pass, so I'll throw that in there too. You guys will recognize his yellow Mustang. He's got a lot of videos on YouTube from racing down at Famoso and Southern California mostly. But Ben Alameda's, his car's been featured on Ben Alameda's channel. Ben does his engine work, or has in the past. I guess it's his engine, he said, is still running. It was, when I talked to him, I think he said Ben built that engine for him in his car like in 2003 or something. So he's had a good, good long run with that engine in there. And So anyway, it was really cool meeting with him. He's a cool guy. So hopefully I'll see him at the track again, and I'll put the one pass we saw in there. But anyway, we'll be back June 28th. Next video will be, I'm on vacation next week. Next video will be when I get back. We'll install this crank trigger and go from there, and then maybe head over to the dyno. All right, guys. Hope everybody is having a great May, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Boris.